She put a pot on she hair and gone. Them a the first one out on the dam. Basket on she head, bucket in each hand. Hold up on she frock, I wanna she grandson. To the market, them a go. For the morning, the day is dawning. For cock-a-crow to give the villagers a warning. Rise and shine, the birds them a sing. All animal take turn as them join in the waking. Cock-a-crow, dog-a-bark, donkey bray, horse and they even duck-a-quack. Cock-a-crow, dog-a-bark, donkey bray, horse and they even duck-a-quack. Come and hear this sweet story that tell the people about life in the country. All day a back down, me now a come home. Inaga jackass yard for fetch the load. Cockle shy hand, bag over shoulder, running by his side, a Rexy and Rover. From the farm, them a come. Sun a go down but up the river. Some washing clothes, some folks are bathing at the water. Fisherman, they catch them a bring. From a canoe boat, man, them start offloading. Aymara, Kwakwari, Hail Baka Kuma Kuma, even Lokunani. Aymara, Kwakwari.
The ditty we used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this. Onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got bust the rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea and the river, great, wide and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana's sons and daughters can be. Born in the land of Kaijur, shining splendor, land of the palm tree, the croton and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces, we all the glory of goodness would learn. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana's sons and daughters can be.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. My name is Mark Benschop. It's 3 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is just a special program, so to speak, because, you know, lots of activities happening in Guyana, especially since those folks have been installed as of August 2nd, 2020. That's August 2nd last year. Lots of things happening, lots of disasters, lots of horrible things. And it doesn't seem as though there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel for our beautiful country. It seems as though the policies that the regime have is basically out of place, and they just go to bed, they wake up, and that's it. They have nothing thought out, they have nothing constructive, they have nothing that's beneficial towards the entire nation. All they're concerned about is just a massive corruption. And they believe that if they go and they put a 2-inch or an inch and a half road and they cut ribbons and all these things, they believe that that is satisfactory enough to hoodwink the nation. Lots of people are tired of them. Lots of people are disgusted by their actions. And mind you, I have come into contact with a lot of their supporters. A lot of their supporters are angry at them because they've realized that they have been they have been taken for granted, and it's just basically a hustle for those guys who are part of the PPP installed regime. Look at what has happened since August 2nd, 2020. That is August 2nd last year. Not a heck of a lot. Every day people are crying out. Thousands upon thousands of people are crying out. Look, last evening I was hanging with some relatives of mine and some in-laws, and we were chatting. And I know that it wasn't the rum that was talking or the Guinness that was talking. It was just they were talking their minds, and it was all about politics. And they are upset. And they said that they know some folks who are PPP supporters, and they are crying out. They're crying out because they're not seeing any form of development. And they've said this point blank, that the country seemed to have been running very smoothly, not the perfect, but very smoothly under the coalition, under the stewardship of His Excellency President David Arthur Granger. And many of us are sitting and we're saying to ourselves, why is it that that couldn't continue for the next 5 years so that we can see the development throughout the length and breadth of the country? And one of the guys, whilst he was just about to take another sip of his XM rum, Joseph, if you're listening, good evening to you, and Malcolm and his other half, meaning not his wife, his other half, they're twin, Martin and Malcolm. Good evening. I almost forgot Martin. How can I do that? And so these folks, especially Joseph, said one of the things that they admire about the David Granger's administration is that when they were building stuff, whether it's roads and lights and so forth, they didn't go into one village and skip that village and go to another village because of ethnicity and so forth. They were building village by village by village by village. And that is the David Granger's administration. That is what we all can remember. But I'll tell you guys this, though. If the coalition was actually not cheated out of office and they were in office for the next 5 years, guess what? David Granger would go down as one of the best presidents of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. In less than 5 years, albeit a lot of skullduggery, a lot of Judases and so forth and so on, and a lot of those who were part of the coalition seem to have had their own agendas. So they were busy doing their own thing, mind you. They were just busy doing probably filling their top pocket, bottom pocket, or whatever, rushing out to grab whatever they can grab. But outside of that, in any government, you will find those sort of folks, whether trench crappos, whether flatfoot hustlers or whatever. They are always there. But for the most part, the coalition did far more in terms of making Guyana a respectable country once again, far more than what the PPP would ever dream of doing in the 23 years they've been in office prior to 2015. And now let's get to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is badly handled. One should get an understanding as to what's happening at the COVID-19 hospital. And if you were to get that understanding, if your relatives, some of you, your relatives were there, right? Experienced that. Some made it out alive, some died. But here's what's happening at the COVID-19 hospital. It's overcrowded. They don't have proper medication. In fact, they don't have medication at all to treat your loved ones who have been infected with the coronavirus. There's nothing at all. There's to me, and a lot of people would agree, that is massive corruption that is going on. They pretend as though they're treating a patient for X, Y, and Z, but they just don't know what they're doing for the most part. Mind you, there are some doctors who are trying their utmost, right? But something is definitely wrong there. There are persons who are removed from the ICU and they are in the recovery room, which is another room. They got some folks have been there for over a week and a half, 2 weeks. These folks are complaining that they're hungry. They need food to eat. Because if you're going to recover, gosh, you need food to eat. You need juices. You need proper medication. And they're not getting that. The regime doesn't care about that, because the more people die, it appears, mind you, it appears that the more people die, the more money they will be getting from donors, international financial donors, and so forth and so on. And that's exactly what's going on. And if that is accurate, then we got to say shame on the PPP regime, shame on the installed regime, because they want to make it appear that, look, the ICU is crowded. It is crowded. That is because those patients are not properly treated. And then in order for them to be transferred, those who made it out alive, transferred to the recovery room, they got to wait until one bed is available. So when one person moves from the ICU to the recovery room, right? When one person moves from there, guess what happened? When one person is removed from there, then they clear the bed in the recovery section. That is exactly what's happening. All right, guess what? We have two guests tonight. We want to be talking about Region 10. We want to be talking about Linden, Ituni, Kokwani, where the regime actually, they have neglected those folks in that area. They don't give them no cash grant for the flood relief. Absolutely nothing. They have been discriminating against those people. Thousands of them are still waiting for that their pink slip, the cash grant, their pink slip. Thousands of them are still waiting. It simply means because by evident, the PPP wants to punish Region 10. The PPP wants to punish the people of Region 10, all because of maybe the political party that they have voted for overwhelmingly, or because of their ethnicity. That is precisely what is happening in Region 10. It is happening all across the country. But I take my hat off, to the folks of Region 10 who are not giving up. They are standing up and they're saying they're not going to be bullied. Kudos to the residents. And I say specifically the residents of Region 10, Linden, Ituni, Kokwani, etc., and etc. So we have two persons on with us this evening. Two. Sharma Solomon, no stranger to you guys. He's a former chairman of Region number 10. Young, vibrant, tell it like it is. And in telling it like it is, some people, even within his own party, don't like that. Independent thinker, independent-minded individual. And I don't know whether he is still a member of the PNC. He's still, yes, but when I say a member, whether he has the party card. And if he doesn't have that party card, I hope the leadership are watching. They're watching right now. And hopefully that can be renewed with immediate effect. Stop the nonsense. Stop the BS. I don't know about Miss Vanessa Kissoon, but she is a what is it, blazer. I don't know how come people like Vanessa Kissoon is not in parliament, man. Because we got a lot of those parliamentarians right now are sleeping. It's like they're afraid to speak. It's as though if they speak, they're going to get licks. But Vanessa Kissoon has never been afraid to speak. She has never been afraid of licks. She has never been afraid of telling it like it is. And I'm almost certain that she's not afraid of spending a night at Mackenzie or Wisma police station in the lockups, a night or two. I am almost certain she is not afraid of that at all. Look at her right there. Miss Vanessa Kissoon, not afraid to say it like it is, not afraid to be locked up. Good evening to you, and how are you doing? I guess your microphone needs to be turned on. Your microphone at your end needs to be turned on. There you go. That's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
I know I spoke about the locking up. I spoke about those things. And there you go. I caught you off guard and you're coughing now. It's the truth. How are you doing?
But good night. Let me first of all say Almighty God is great. It's awesome to be alive. Once you're here tonight in the land of the living, we ought to give God praise and thanks. Thank you for having me on the show tonight. And to your listening and viewing audience, I want to say good night to you wonderful people. Thank you for tuning in. And to my colleague, Mr. Solomon, good night also. Mark, before I say anything else, I would like to quote, and I'm enjoying these quotes because these are things that give us, some of us, the courage when you remember people like the great Nelson Mandela, and you remember Mother Teresa and all the others. I want to say, to deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. Nelson Mandela. And human rights are not a privilege conferred by government. They are every human being's entitlement by virtue of his humanity, Mother Teresa. And tonight, I know that we're going to be talking about a lot about the forced vaccination and the rights of our people. That the rights that are being denied by these people. All right, so
Lots
good
of
to be
rights.
here, Mark.
Lots of rights. Good to see you. Good to see you. Even though it's the last minute, I know you said, hey, Mark, you are going to be here. You're a bit tired, but you are, as a true fighter, that you are going to be on because you want to talk to the people. And I want to thank you so much. You have your kids, you're preparing them to go to school and all sort of things. And you yourself, a teacher as well. So I want to say thank you so much. Mr. Solomon has signaled to us that he just took his pot of cook-up off the stove, and he is now ready. Good evening to you, Mr. Solomon. How are you, sir?
Hi, good evening, Mark. I am good by God's grace. Thank you for having me on your program. Blessed good evening to Ms. Kissoon and to your fellow listeners. Let me start by saying God is great indeed to be here this evening, and to open by extending greetings to our Indigenous brothers and sisters in the month of the celebration for our brothers and sisters. A happy Heritage Month, and to also our educators, those teachers and students, happy Education Month. I know though we are saying and giving kind and happy salutations, it could not be even more happy for the conditions under which we are at the moment. So thanks for having me on, Mark. I hope that this evening we could give some highlights on not only what is taking place in Region 10, but generally just the general handling of how this particular issue of the pandemic, and more so on some of the other issues that you choose to address, how they're being looked at. So thanks for having me on, and I hope that we can deliver this evening to your audience something that they can take away of not only what is affecting people in Region 10, but as Guyanese, how we can all work together to ensure we have a better day.
Thank you so much. If we can get a little more volume from you, Mr. Sharma Solomon, we'd appreciate that. Former chairman of Region Number 10. Then he fizzled away, so to speak, from the political scene. I don't know for what reason, but he seemed to be making another comeback at that. I want to ask him a question, but we will put that on pause for now. Go to Miss Vanessa Kissoon, former member of Parliament. Who knows? Maybe one day she'll become the mayor of Linden. You never know. You just never know. It'll be a good thing for the people of Linden, but I'm not going to get there as of yet. The last time you were on this program, Miss Vanessa Kissoon, you had on a beautiful dress, the Guyana flag, the colors of the Guyana flag and everything. And tonight, we should just be thankful that we're just seeing your head.
Mark, I didn't hear I only heard the part with the outfit, Mark. I don't know. You broke up a bit, so
All right,
I'm
that
not
is
sure.
okay. We are just seeing half of your head. I don't know if this is the new style in Plaisance or whatever the case is. We want to see you. There you go. We want to see more of you in terms of your lovely outfit and everything. There you go. Ms. Vanessa Kissoon, again, thank you for being here with us. Um, the last we spoke, or maybe I heard, that you haven't been officially a member of the PNCR in terms of your membership card. You seem to have been going through a heck of a lot of hardship in order to becoming a bona fide member again of the People's National. And I say bona fide through a membership, having a party card, a membership, which gives you access to a lot of things, voting at Congress and so forth. What's the holdup in all of that?
Okay, Mark. Let me first say this: I've never actually been a card holder member, as in having a card
Let me
I
pause you for a moment.
I have been a member.
I,
No, that's all right. I
I
have
don't
been a
know.
member.
Yeah,
I
if
was
you,
a member of the PNC, and let me just say that as far as I know, I'm still on suspension. Matter has not been resolved. That's all I can tell you about when it concerning my membership or being a member of the PNC. I am still on
but
suspension.
you know something. If we can get more volume from you, I don't know what's happening with you guys and your volume tonight. If it's a Linden thing, um, but let
Are
me
you
ask
hearing me now?
loud and clear now. It's better now. Let me ask you this: suspension. You have been suspended probably when Noah just started to build that ark. You've been suspended for the longest while. Suspended still for almost 10 years. It's unacceptable. Have you approached the leadership of your party to have this suspension resolved? If so, what's the situation?
Mark, let me say that I did. However, I think, as you know, and it is known publicly, I was asked to do a written apology, and that has never been done, and so I'm still suspended.
What exactly they want you to write and apologize for?
Well, Mark, as I would normally say to you, and I know you're very close or a ardent supporter of former president, now leader of the People's National Congress, I would appreciate if you would engage him in this matter. I think he'll be the best person, in fact, to give you an update on this matter.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just have to smile. But if I have to say anything to former president, still president in my mind, and if I have to say anything to him about your matter, it would simply be the right thing to do, which is to have you reinstated with immediate effect. Stop this nonsense about apology to party and apology to whatever. Stop it and be reinstated. That is what I would say. And of course, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't be able to say it like it is. There's absolutely, in my opinion, that is no justification to have you hanging on a string or attempting to force you to apologize. I wouldn't accept that. Mr. Sharma Solomon, you seem to be in the same boat. Your membership with the PNCR. Can you explain to the general public, please?
Let me say this, Mark, just as Ms. Kissoon had already outlined. Our membership have always been our commitment first and foremost to the People's National Congress. And I know you're actually speaking of the physical membership and as a card bearer. When we got into the party, in particular myself in 2015, around 2012, 2010, when we got into the party, it was building the party back. And those differences that would have caused our encounters while building the party back um, remained even after we removed from our official post that we got through the party, whether those were regional chairman or member of parliament. And what we saw, in fact, in my particular case, is even at the Congress of 2014, not only party card, but even a delegate card, as not only as a delegate, but a candidate was not given to myself. So I have witnessed the level of frustration internally for persons to either be recognized as an official member or to be even given a card to be acknowledged as a member. And I think this came out a couple of weeks ago when the central executive held a meeting in the region. And it was admitted to by members in the audience that even at the level of the party, many members still have cards that are stuffed in drawers and not delivered to individuals. So I think those level of frustration to first recognize people membership and then to give them that which is an acknowledgement of their membership in card would have been something affecting myself also. And I hope that those things are clarified. I hope that people who are prepared and willing at any level to be a member, the party give that right constitutionally. It is not for you to be a millionaire. It represents the vanguardness of the grassroots, should be given easy access to be a member, especially through the channels that are provided. Fill your membership form, be a part of a party group, and move towards ensuring that within the region, that the party is well represented and respected. And I don't think those things should be held against people and used to frustrate them. So I'm looking forward to seeing not only for myself, but for many others who have an interest to first become members and those who had their membership frustrated.
I got
These
you.
matters to be resolved.
I got you loud and clear, Mr. Sharma Solomon. I understand where you're coming from. I've heard stories, and unfortunately, I've heard these sort of sad stories from individuals. Some have applied to become party members 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they haven't heard from those folks at Congress Place. They haven't heard from them. I don't know what's the holdup. Whether they feel as though giving party membership cards to individual is giving them a gold block or something like that. There are other political parties would love to write the membership cards on the spot to give to party supporters or new membership. They're not doing that with the PNCR. And whoever is responsible for that need to stop the BSing around. They just need to stop that. I know of one individual, I'm not going to call that person's name, who applied about 2, 3 years for his party's membership card, paid his fees and everything, and only the other day received it. It's uncalled for. But I'm going to say this publicly. I hope that the leadership of the party, they're watching. Some of them do peep, but it's uncalled for. Give Vanessa Kissoon back her membership. She doesn't have to apologize. It is done with. There are people who fought against the PNC for 50 years, 40 years, 30-something years. They became all sorts of senior members of the coalition government. Nobody asked them to apologize before they got into the coalition and these things. It's got to stop, man. It's got to stop. But I don't want us to spend much time just dealing with that. But I do hope that leadership would get its act together and give you guys back your membership. And scores of persons out there, put the petty differences aside. Moving on now. Moving on. Ms. Kissoon, schools are set to be reopened tomorrow. Teachers all across the country are frustrated. They don't know what to do. They are afraid. Students are afraid. Parents are afraid to send their kids to school under the circumstances. As a teacher, as a parent, and as an activist, what is your take on this reopening of schools tomorrow?
Okay, Mark. Well, I was on the Region 10 program this afternoon, and I did raise concerns of parents, mothers, with the reopening of school. I know that the secondary schools will continue online, and I find that very interesting that the senior students are continuing online, but the babies are going face to face. Very, very interesting decision that was made by the ministry to have our babies attend school face to face. This is nursery and primary, and the senior students are continuing online. Um, as a parent, I have a daughter who's will be entering to grade 6. However, I will not be sending her because I am still not sure. I'm still not aware of what exactly, because for some reason there's confusion in the camp of the Ministry of Education. I don't know. Every minute they're backpedaling. This you're hearing. This is the decision. You're hearing that is the decision. Teachers of primary, nursery, and primary schools are asked to report to duty tomorrow. However, what is not clear is that tomorrow at 9 a.m., the vaccination rollout is supposed to be commencing in Linden and Region 10. Teachers are supposed to be fully vaccinated before they head off to school or before they are accepted into school. So if the vaccination process is rollout process is happening tomorrow, and you're saying to teachers tomorrow's school is reopening, what are we really saying? You're saying also that X amount of percentage of the school's population must be vaccinated before school commence. But yet still, teachers are asked to turn up to work tomorrow. Is it that you're asking teachers to turn up to work tomorrow? And then when they do that, whether it's in Linden, it's in Region 4, wherever, Region 5, you will lock them out? I would like to bring this to your attention. I know that you know, but I know that Guyana Teachers Union would have made it clear that if one teacher is locked out, then we will strike. All right. We will not be divided as teachers in this situation here, because like I said earlier, we have to understand that these children are the nation's children. They are the ones that are going to be our next leaders. They're the ones that are going to be our next politicians, our doctors, our teachers. And we are prepared, these people are prepared to deny our children, this country's children, taxpayers' children, their fundamental right to access education. This is madness, Mark. This is madness. Yet we go around talking, running around, oh, because we care and oh, we love. No, you don't love the nation's children. The decisions that are being made are political decisions. And so parents are now being forced to choose between life and education. And I say it that way because, like I said earlier on the other program, parents have genuine concerns. I am a senior level, senior mistress, acting, and I'm the level head for grade 7 and grade 8 at a high school, Mackenzie High, where I teach. And parents would message in the WhatsApp group, because I am in all the classes, the WhatsApp groups, because I am the senior mistress acting. So teachers would have added me. And parents are asking us, Miss, what about my child who's asthmatic? Miss, I have a child who has medical conditions. I can't answer them. My teachers or our teachers we're not medical personnel. We cannot answer those questions. So how is it that, we're running around? All we want to show the world is, oh, we open back school, education is important. Mark and viewers, Mr. Solomon, if a child is not healthy, that child will not learn. That child cannot learn. If a child is sick, in fact, one of the biggest concerns. What system is in place? Are all the schools ready for opening tomorrow, reopening tomorrow? What about the sanitation? What about washrooms? Are they up and running? Do we have sick bays in all the schools? These little babies that you're sending out to nursery school who've never been in a classroom situation, even those that are going to year two. Remember, the year two nursery school children, they've never been in a classroom setting. Some of them are not accustomed to being away from their parents. They're going to be crying. The nursery school teachers can tell you that those children will be crying. They will be in tantrums. Some of them throw themselves down, and teachers are being told, you cannot touch these children. You have to stay 6 feet apart from them. What are we doing? But I want to caution,
Sure.
and I want to say to parents, you cannot, if you decide tomorrow to take your child or send your child to school, whether primary or nursery, especially the nursery, and leave your child, you cannot blame the teacher for anything. You have to hold the Minister of Education accountable. In fact, I don't know how come it hasn't happened across this region, across this country. We should have been calling for Frank Anthony and Priya for their resignation. They're no longer worthy to be those Minister of Education and Minister of Health. I have not heard the Minister of Health to date. I don't know. Maybe I didn't listen properly. One of not just my concern, I heard other parents asking the question, what is the COVID task force saying about this reopening of school? What are they saying? Have they advised the minister? These are the policy makers. Have they advised the Minister of Health that it is okay to reopen school full blast? We need to hear from them. In fact, we need to know who are the members of this task force. I don't know if you know all the members, Mark, or if you know the members, maybe you can educate us. But these are important things that we need to take into consideration. And we have to ensure that we address these parents if anything happened to any one of those children, who's going to be held accountable? You know what they will say to us? But parent, you signed the consent form. You understand? And once you give consent, then anything happens, nobody's liable. And when you go to the hospital, we don't even have Panadol. Sometimes there's a shortage of drugs. There's nothing there to treat our children. This is madness. This is total madness.
Total madness indeed. And sorry that I cut you. We want to go over to Sharma Solomon, and you've made some valid points, Miss Vanessa Kissoon. In fact, the schools are not prepared. The nursery schools, I've gotten messages from some teachers at the nursery school and primary school levels, and they themselves are concerned. The classrooms are not prepared. Some get one cake of soap, some got nothing at all. And this is what Priya Manik-Chan and the regime, they want people to send their kids off to school. I'll give a quick personal example. My little daughter is about to start school, and the amount of information that they asked before, all sort of information, and they even showed the classrooms and the teachers and so forth, and all the stuff that they're going to have in that classroom. And I said to myself, I just wish that those little ones in Guyana would have been getting the same sort of treatment as my little ones over here. Unfortunately, Priya doesn't care. Frank Anthony doesn't care. The entire regime doesn't care. One of the things I want Priya Manik-Chan and Frank Anthony to do is to show us their vaccine cards. Let Priya come out and say to the teachers, this is my vaccine card. Here it is. This is my vaccine card. I took the vaccine. Which vaccine? She doesn't have to show all the information. I'll be surprised if she does show that her vaccination card, or Frank Anthony. Let them show that. I'll be surprised. But let's go over to former chairman Sharma Solomon. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for your patience. What is happening? What is your take? I know you guys had a community meeting there in Region 10 in Linden today. Uh, what was the purpose of that meeting? And what can people expect from that region tomorrow?
All right, thanks again, Mark. And I want to just reflect on those points made by Ms. Kissoon, how very important they are, not only for teachers, but both parents and students also that will be turning out for school tomorrow. Um, the event this afternoon, it indeed reflected, and let me recognize the organizers, which are in essence the community leaders and people who have long expressed their reservation on the general handling of the government and COVID-19. That in itself is where, as it relates to the community's awareness, I am encouraged to have been given the opportunity to highlight those issues. Um, you look at the last 72 hours of the government handling of this matter is reflective of the past year of the government handling of this matter in terms of their approach and the sort of policies. And we see how those policies are now affecting not only the general public at large, but more in particular certain segments. And we're going to see that tomorrow with our schools. So the general handling of the pandemic, I believe many times could be overlooked and is being overlooked. You look at, as I said, in the last 72 hours, what you had in the past 24 hours is an adjustment of the policy, is an adjustment of the Gazette. Now, as Ms. Kissoon made mention as she closed, what influence, what shape the crafting of these policies? Is it a medical council? We see the trade unions have adopted this in their argument before the courts, that the decisions that are being made in the level of public policy management appear to be garbage bin in essence, where we just throw everything in the garbage bin. What comes out is what we shape as policy. There is no plan. There isn't a national plan that brings into consideration, to begin with, how do you manage this pandemic? So that is why in the past 24 hours, you can see the government admitting in the last Gazette that they're incapable and the measures put in place are disjointed. It is incoherent to deal with the crisis. So in less than 24 hours, a change was made. We go back to who informs those changes? How are those changes informed? And we see even at the beginning of the handling of the pandemic that the government have taken a unilateral approach to that in terms of how they shape the response committee on COVID. So if you take that acceptance by this government of their incapable approach within the past few hours to deal with this pandemic, then we can take also their incapable approach from the beginning of the management of this pandemic by their own acceptance and the things that they've done so far. So I am aware people have concerns about the vaccine. I am also aware that people have taken the vaccine. It is more than certain people are on the fence about if they should or should not take the vaccine. And those are reflected in the numbers of people that have so far been vaccinated. So the change in policy by this government, instead of moving along the garbage bin policy management arrangement, instead of allowing people to have to question, lose trust and confidence in your ability, that if you put out the issue of how to be vaccinated and the importance of vaccination, that people wouldn't call those things into question. It is the general handling of how those things are done that we're at this point, Mark, and that have brought Region 10 today to a point where it needs to have a conversation, and by the community leaders, the sort of action that will have to be taken to bring attention to these issues that are affecting people. The issue, Mark, is the general handling of the pandemic, which carry those factors that include how the policies are set for school opening, how the policy is in place for the rollout of the vaccination exercise, how the general policy as it relates to community involvement is dealt with. Instead, you have a minister of education takes for granted the intelligence of people and refer to them as illiterate, in legitimately trying to figure out how do they find information, how do they get awareness. And these are not arrogant approach, Mark. You see across the Caribbean, schools have removed from face-to-face back to remote learning in some cases. We saw the Prime Minister of Barbados, who've accepted that there need to be a shift in the approach that is being taken with regards to how people are being educated on this matter. We see a complete contrast in the case of Guyana. And more so, what we see that becomes more inflicting on communities are how these policies are being implemented. Whether those policies are reflected in financial, social net for people, in the way the cash grants are distributed, whether those policies are in the opening of school, whether they're in the vaccine rollout, whether they are in the issue of enforcement of the protocols. We see this sort of approach to use COVID in how to get these issues dealt with. So they're either being dealt with in an unequal way, where some are more important than others, able to carry on their gathering and functions, where some community are not being penalized like others. We saw that in the case of our health workers. In Linden, while workers were able to go to work and take care of the sick 2 weeks prior, Linden, our nurses and doctors and patients were locked out of the hospital. Now, the government would have manufactured and created a public health crisis only by doing that. And I made the point earlier today that that is reflected in an unfortunate incident that occurred last week in Georgetown Public Hospital, where because of these incoherent policies, everybody becomes a specialist, including the security guard at the gate, in terms of who is COVID recognizable or unrecognizable. So Region 10 have taken the position, quite rightly so, because by tomorrow, in the next couple of hours, when everyone becomes affected, then we'll appreciate that the handling of this matter is unacceptable. And as Ms. Kissoon rightly said, people should be held accountable, whether it is the Minister of Education or the Minister of Health, because they have inserted themselves politically in this matter and not allow for a broad-based stakeholder approach where they are guided by the COVID-19 task force and such likes in terms of medical and science guiding their actions. Their actions are purely political, and in many cases, it is to take away from people who oppose the views of the government. So either you're illiterate or you're a mental retard because you have an opposing view on these matters.
And well said, Mr. Sharma Solomon. And coming from that particular individual, I think it's a reflection of her in the mirror. For those who may have missed it, here is what Priya Manik Chand said about the parents. Mr. Sharma Solomon just brought it up.
And it restated for us our purpose here, that we must treat every child as though they have an illiterate parent.
All right, treating every child as if they have an illiterate parent. Gosh, ridiculous statement. Before we go back to Miss Vanessa Kissoon, Trinidad, as of September 6th, virtual classes. Grenada, same thing. Jamaica, same thing. St. Lucia, same thing. Barbados, same thing. Antigua, same thing. Dominica, same thing. Guyana, face-to-face classroom. Face-to-face classroom. Because guess why? Because she and her regime said that. They're the ones who say that. So they want to put the children's health and risk at risk, sorry, their lives at risk. She also wants to put teachers' lives at risk, the staff members of all the schools' lives at risk, minibus persons in the minibuses, and all of these things. Priya Manikchan and the regime don't give a damn. Frank Anthony doesn't give a damn. Miss Vanessa Kissoon, what is the mood like on the ground in Linden, in Region 10, as it pertains to the parents and the children heading back to school?
Mark, like I said earlier, parents have a lot of concerns. I know a lot of parents who said they wouldn't be sending their children to school tomorrow. Um, I know a lot of parents who are not feeling safe enough to send their children to school. They don't believe that schools should be reopened, and so people are upset. People are angry. They're mad. They're listen. I mean, look at what you're showing there. We're the only place. I don't know if to say country because I don't know. We're the only place, and I want us to understand this, and I want us to take note of this. Tomorrow, it is said that nursery and primary schools are going to be reopened for face to face, while the senior students are continuing online. These babies, we call them babies. Even the high school students as teachers, we call them our babies. All right? Why is it? And the other thing is, what is the rush, Mark? What is the rush to have all students and all teachers, auxiliary staff, everybody vaccinated, fully vaccinated before? Why is it our right to choose is being denied and taken from us forcefully by saying to us, and I don't even know what are they really saying to us. They're saying one time, it is not mandatory. You're not being forced. You have a choice. However, now you're seeing, even for me to go and worship as a woman of God, as a Christian, I'm going to have to be producing my vaccination card to be able to go and give God praise and thanks for protecting and providing and watching over me and my family. This is madness. You're saying to me all markets, supermarkets. Now we know, Mark, that at Pleasance, and I use Pleasance because that's my home before Linden. So I have two homes. I'm fortunate. But so on Sundays, Pleasance, even in front of my mother's residence, you have stalls all lined up there, people selling. Are you saying to me when because out of my mom's yard, out of the gate, there are stalls in front of me, I can shop. So before I buy from these vendors there, I have to produce a card because the market clerks collect stall rental and so from these people. So they're part of the market. I'm wondering, what is it we're really saying? Are these supermarket owners and business owners, are they prepared for what is going to come? For when the people who don't have and cannot enter their business and support their business, are they prepared for that? What are we really doing? And that is why Linden and Region 10, even, and I really want to commend the Linden and Region 10 community for the stand that they're going to take. And I think this should be replicated across Guyana. It is no longer, and listen, you and I know this. These people are all about divide and rule. That is what they are, that is their motto, divide and rule. And then you insult people. We should look at every child as if they have an illiterate parent, or they're mentally retarded. They can't read and comprehend for themselves. You understand? So we have to as a people. This is not about who is what and who is who, because I know across, even though some persons are silent, and I want to say this. Let me give this quote here, Mark. I didn't learn to be quiet when I had an opinion. The reason they know who I was is because I told them. Ursula Burns. So we're not going to be quiet. We're not going to remain quiet or afraid to speak out and give our opinions on this matter. These people ought to know that as citizens, we have the right to speak. We have the right to protest. We have the right to choose. Our children have a right to an education. Why our rights are being trampled on, and you expect us to just sit back and accept that? Because you're saying to us we have to have a card or a passport to do business and to conduct business. What is the rush? That is my concern right now. What is the rush?
You know, a lot of people are talking about that as well. What is the rush? I've read some comments, and this is not a program that I want to panic citizens. I want citizens to be able to make that decision. It's their choice whether they want to be vaccinated or not. It is my choice whether I wanted to be vaccinated or not, and I took the vaccine, right? For me, I believe that that's my opinion. I believe the vaccine makes me safer in terms of getting the coronavirus. It doesn't mean that I can get the virus, but according to the science, it reduces the risk, right? And so I made that decision. I made that choice that I want to be vaccinated. If someone doesn't want to be vaccinated, I think he or she should be allowed to make that decision as well as adults. And we should, as adults as well, be able to make that decision for our children, whether we want them to be vaccinated or not. We are not seeing that with the regime in Guyana. And outside of that, the vaccines, some of the vaccines are questionable. People don't know. Unlike in the US, we know the storage and so forth is up to par, so to speak. But in Guyana, we don't know whether these things are properly stored. We don't know whether Sputnik V, the Russian-made vaccine, we don't know whether they are legitimate vaccines, especially since it's coming from a middleman. We don't know where that middleman is getting it from. And those are the questions that have left unanswered that makes people so, those are the questions that make people so suspicious of the Irfan Ali's administration. Mr. Solomon, what is your take on what the administration is doing in predominantly Black communities, giving them 2 pieces of chicken for the vaccine? I noticed sometime out a month or so in Linden, they give them a box of food. What is your take, sir, on that?
This is a general handling again. I will go back to every community. I think what you've recognized, however, as badly as the matter is being handled, it is also being used as an opportunity to go after certain communities, as I mentioned earlier, with reference to the nurses and what give in Linden. But the point to look at, Mark, a few weeks ago, we were actually told it is as if every other country in this world were sitting in the slips, waiting for the COVID Delta variant to come to know how to deal with it. We had to be told by the Trinidadian Prime Minister that might be a possibility in Guyana. And we still have not been definitively told, except for a few days ago, by the Minister of Health, that we may have the Delta variant. Now, the cases are going up. You have had the response to even the upsurge in COVID that is still being treated as if it could be done by the Minister of Health solely and only, when such an opportunity to build trust in the society was left up to a foreign prime minister to give the people of Guyana that very unfortunate news that they had the Delta variant. So this is not, as I said before, people may think that it is the way of dealing with just the crisis in the vaccination rollout. You rightly mentioned about Sputnik. Again, it is the Trinidadians, and even in their request for persons to gain entry into Trinidad, they have not recognized the Sputnik vaccine. So even things like that, things like those, where questions on many of the answers that are needed are directly given either by the Minister of Health, who is a politician. He is with the title Dr. Frank Anthony. But this is a matter that requires a lot more medical input with regards to how policies are going to be reflected on the ground. And that's just the Minister of Health. And it is the same for the Minister of Education. We have more Facebook dialogue by the Minister of Education with reference to public policy and changes in some
Facebook views out.
Facebook that is the sort of attitude to the management of this very important crisis that have claimed the lives of many Guyanese. We've got many more suffering. And I pray to Almighty God that we can lose that number down based on a better handling of the matter. So you would have had in the past 24 hours or 48 hours, I am quite certain, a level of franticness in many of the chat groups that teachers and their seniors are a part of because of the level of understanding of what should be done as we approach tomorrow morning. So the minister, in essence, in education now, not as we saw with the Minister of Health, has literally given the responsibility back to the schools, the parents, and the students, leaving them in confusion. Because according to the Gazette today, those orders before were not coherent and they were disjointed in how they were put together. So those two people as ministers, because the president have taken himself away from this, because the true authority as the union have acknowledged in their court case belongs to those specialists and a board, those two individuals should take full responsibility of the outcome of what is happening in this country. And in any other country, even as the United States went into election, the COVID pandemic acts as a factor, whether it's in Malaysia, many countries, governments have been held to account that either they're fallen or internal, like in Brazil, governments have recognized when ministers, as they have admitted in the Gazette, are incapable of securing the interest and the well-being of Guyanese. And for that fact, as you asked the question, Mark, how I see those ministers performing, I think Guyanese should first hold them accountable for the outcome of what is happening in this pandemic. And tomorrow, for those who are still doubting, you will see the chaos and confusion when you become affected by these disjointed and incoherent policies that are being set by this administration.
Well said. For those of you who are now joining us, we have former regional chairman of Region 10, the Honorable Sharma Solomon, with us this evening. Lots of community works they're doing. He's doing out there in Region 10, Linden, and all across Region 10 recently and even prior to now. We also have a school teacher, a former member of parliament, a community activist, and suspended member of the People's National Congress Reform with us this evening, Ms. Vanessa Kissoon. So the vibes basically in Linden and all across Region 10 is for schools to be shut down. Tomorrow is a shutdown day in Linden, right? Ms. Kissoon, explain it to our public, please.
Okay, Mark, before I get into that, I've noticed we have to produce cards to go all these places, like I mentioned earlier. That's the markets, the churches, mosque, temples, school. I'm curious though, I haven't seen the lockups on this list. Concerning the reopening of schools tomorrow,
I like that. I like that. I like that. I love that. So persons who are arrested, persons who are locked up, police should ask them for their vaccination cards before they are arrested. And if they can't produce their vaccination cards, then it will be a violation for them to be arrested. Do not arrest persons without vaccine cards. Do not lock people. Do not put them in Brigham lockup without their vaccine cards. Do not put them in the Wismar and Mackenzie lockups. Do not do that. It's a violation right now. Good point. What about to bury people too? To attend funerals, you go in funeral homes, you got to show your vaccine cards. To go into Laripenteer Cemetery or Christianburg Cemetery, what do you have to do? Show your vaccine cards. I bet to go to what is it, Red Dragon on Rob Street, or that strip club on Brick Dam. You know what I mean? I wonder if those guys got to show their vaccine cards as well. I don't know, man. Miss Kissoon, continue.
Yes, Mark. So as we know, there is a shutdown in Linden tomorrow. However, the nursery and the primary teachers, it is said that school reopens tomorrow. I know that persons will be concerned because it is said that on the first and last day of school, teachers must report for duty. So I know that there are, concerns. However, if a teacher is being affected or cannot meet to the workplace, I believe that system will be put in place by the HMs and the administrative body of schools to handle that matter, because we don't want what happened to the nurses happening to our teachers, where salaries are being held and cut, concerning turning up to duty. And that, as we say, as teachers, we say, signing in your time, Mark. So, but tomorrow, Linden Region 10 will be shut down, and everyone is encouraged to stay at home. All right, so that is where we're at. The secondary schools, those teachers are supposed to call into the school and report for duty, because online classes commence for grade 7 to 13 tomorrow. Those 13 will be those schools with 6 forms. They're expected to have online classes. And again, I'm still concerned. The senior students are home online, and our babies are asked to go out there in the store.
Yeah. And
what are we doing? This is a real backward movement. Really, I don't know if it's because of pride and shame. The minister and the ministry, they don't want to say, well, listen, let us go back to online for all levels. Because you're saying also, because you're saying to me that teachers have to be fully vaccinated. Then you're saying if a teacher gets the first dose, or a child tomorrow, let's use Linden, we'll use Linden as the example here. They'll be vaccinated tomorrow. Then they have to wait, I think, 2 weeks before they get their second dose. And then they have to wait 2 weeks before they're, I don't know if I'm using the right terms, medically or whatever, cleared, before they can enter bed. So how is it? You really want teachers to turn up to school tomorrow to be locked out? Is it these people are really pushing to have something happen in the country? What is it we're really saying or doing? What is it? I don't know. Based on you're hearing this, you're hearing that, but I have not seen a document which says that this school, secondary school or primary school, nursery school, the staff is fully vaccinated, and so school should be open. So what is it we really doing? We want to hold people's salaries. We want to fire teachers. What is it? What is the aim? What is the aim of these people? And like I said, I am surprised that persons are not calling for the resignation of these ministers.
Well, there was a no confidence motion. There was a no confidence motion brought against two quote unquote ministers, Frank Anthony and Robeson Ben. And the Speaker of the National Assembly, who is a PPP lackey, doesn't want those two no confidence motions to be brought. So if someone now in Parliament, well, they don't have a Vanessa Kissoon now in Parliament, to bring a no confidence motion against Priya Manikchan, that should, I don't know who's the shadow Minister of Education. I think it's Dr. Nicolette Henry. if she's brave enough, or her party, to bring a no confidence motion, introduced a no confidence motion against Priya Manik Chan. It is timely. She's incompetent, she's illiterate, and some members of the Ministry of Education who are making these decisions are also illiterate, just like Priya Manik Chan and others in the regime. Mr. Sharma Solomon, 6 to 6. There's a 6 to 6 shutdown. Not only teachers, but people are asked to do what? Stay home, or just don't open their stores, don't cross with the boats. Exactly what it.
So the issue for tomorrow on the 6th March, as far as my participation remains, is a call for people, not only in Linden and Region 10, but anywhere in Guyana. Because by tomorrow morning, so many people will be affected, to not only accept that which affects you, but like in Region 10 and Linden, is going to show some form of protest or demonstration as an objection to the handling of this pandemic and how these measures are being applied. With regards to Region 10, we were told this afternoon, and I think it's a general call, even by residents, as we saw over the weeks, the level of built up approach to be taken, whether it's by our teachers, our nurses. We saw even the community a few Wednesdays ago got involved. And this is just another form tomorrow is going to take to demonstrate and register that protest action. This afternoon's meeting was in essence to give focus on the issues that brings Region 10 into spotlight, on why the action of demonstration and protest becomes even more encouraging. So whether you want to take the presentation that was done, for example, by the regional chairman, and so many of the things that were inflicted and affect Region 10, and how it is being compounded by the handling of this pandemic, persons are going to show that protest and demonstration tomorrow. Whether it is the teachers, as we are seeing, is left in limbo. And let me make this point, Mark, because I'll go right back to how they are structuring the sort of policies that allow people to have confidence in what they're doing. So tomorrow's protest and demonstration is an objection of that. You have 58,000 secondary school students across Guyana. And as I mentioned earlier, you have less than 48 hours ago noted that 5,000 of these 58,000 students are vaccinated. So here comes the reversal. It is not a reversal that we see nationally to say to schools, as Ms. Kissoon just outlined, secondary schools will now stay home because the 12 and above age range that they wanted to vaccinate is not going to be done. Then this should have been known. This should have been known that you don't have sufficient vaccines, even for the people you want to vaccinate. So you're actually implying policies and position and enforcing them as mandatory, as enforcing them as placing people in a position where they have very little choice, or to even spend money on PCR tests that they don't have. And that is what brought about the sort of pent-up resistance. You saw those things coming early on from Apostle London and the religious and many in the religious communities. You saw the nurses, them as I mentioned. You saw community leaders a few weeks ago at the Linden Martyrs Monument Park. And then you saw over the week the teachers on Thursdays and Fridays that took to the streets. So tomorrow I can expect, or what you can expect, is even though the forum for engagement changed today, to make that plea for people to give consideration, to show some level of protest, demonstration, or objection to the handling. I noted that people overwhelmingly embraced that position. So you can expect that sort of response, Mark. Every time the people of Region 10 express their willingness to go against the things that they feel affect them the most, they've always demonstrated the will to take the necessary action. So you will see that tomorrow, Mark. I encourage people, not only in Linden and Region 10, but across Guyana, to register their general objection, their protest, their ability to show that the government general handling of this matter, of course, over 600 people, their lives may have, because that number could have been far less if certain measures were put in place, and could cost more people their lives. And until you face that tomorrow morning and moving forward in the weeks, then you will take that step to show protest action also. So commendable to Region 10 for ensuring that not only today, but as an inspiration to say to the rest of Guyana, that the general handling must be objected to with regards to COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you so much, former regional chairman, Sharma Solomon. We're looking at the time, so we are wrapping up now. But let's go to Ms. Vanessa Kissoon. I want to show you something, Ms. Kissoon. I want to show you, I'll put it on the screen. I want you to tell us, what year was this?
I think if my memory serves me right, I'm aging gracefully, Mark.
Well,
But it looks like
we can't see that you are.
2015. I think
2015. Okay, and right here, I suspect it's 2015 as well. Right in this, when this photograph was actually taken, you were still suspended.
Yes, Mark, I was suspended still.
Okay, and
I was suspended in 2014, Mark.
You were suspended in 2014. Yes, this photograph was taken in Linden, I believe. There you are, standing there. It doesn't look as though you were suspended. It doesn't look as though Mr. Sharma Solomon was without his membership card. It looks as though everything was hunky-dory. You guys are buddies. Look at you and my good friend David Otter Granger. Look at you guys there. You looked as though you weren't suspended. You were needed then. I don't know. Your closing
Mark,
remarks.
let me say this though, just before, let me say this, that Mr. Solomon and I always recognize that it's always bigger than us, and we put country first, and we're always ready to serve the people of this, not only Linden and Region 10, but the people of Guyana, the beautiful people of Guyana. So we had decided that country was bigger and still is bigger than Sharma Solomon and Vanessa Kissoon.
Somebody's asking the question before we get to Mr. Sharma Solomon. Someone is asking the question, why were you suspended specifically?
That I didn't hear you, Mark. Was that for me or?
For you? You were suspended. They want to know why. Is it the incident with you and then General Secretary Oscar Clark?
Yes, Mark.
But you and Oscar Clark made up, y'all kiss up and make up. It's done with?
Yes,
still?
We have. Yes, we have moved on. We forgive each other, if you want to say that. We're friends, we're colleagues. And so every time we see each other, we greet each other, we understand what camaraderie is, and we understand that there are certain things you don't fetch around because it doesn't make sense carrying those burdens.
It doesn't make sense to carry those burdens. And some of you who are fetching around things, burdens, it doesn't make sense.
I'm hardly, you have to speak up a little, Mark.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening.
That's okay. We're going to wrap up. Let's go to Mr. Sharma Solomon. In your closing remarks, of course, we see some things coming out of your party. It appears as though there's some folks fighting internally. It doesn't look good for the support base of the PNCR. Your closing remarks, sir.
Thanks again for having me on, Mark, and to you, to my fellow guest, Ms. Kissoon. For your audience to be a part of this program is always an opportunity to share and to also learn. Just to point out the photo before I move to what is actually based on my take on what's taking place in the party, that represents our commitment to change, to a progressive approach to the politics that have been affecting Guyana, which lives in a backward state. That picture represents our attitude with regards to ensuring we have our commitment to ensuring not only victory for our party, but victory for Guyana. And that translated itself, or in fact transferred itself in 2020. That even though those matters that you outlined earlier, whether it's Ms. Kissoon's suspension, whether at 2014, as I mentioned, I was denied a delegate card or even a party card within the period 2015 to 2020, we still remain committed to the party that in 2020, without holding those titles, as Ms. Kissoon mentioned, we were active in the region, we were active across Guyana, lending support to that which I made mention earlier, that progressive thought of changing that whole ideal that doesn't allow for growth. Now, with reference to the party, the PNC remains the vanguard party in Guyana. And a forum or several forums that were created in the party that allows for members to dialogue and engage each other, I think that is what we are seeing. Those forums being utilized, whether it's the members, the groups, the region, whether it's central executive, whether it's the issues to get the rest of the country to be a part of that. So we must first applaud that vanguardness that allows for a democratic approach to how it deals with its matters, which is to allow all members to be a part of the process of outlining and deciding the leadership of the party. So with reference to the other matters that you mentioned, it is healthy. It is healthy that we must have contenders, that we must have competition. But I believe where that becomes unhealthy is when we recognize, or we can or should recognize, where damage is being done to the party. So it is not unacceptable for people to want and to have desire to move in this party. The party gives the scope and space for that. What is unhelpful is when we cannot recognize the amount of damage our ambition sometimes can do to the party and what that leaves us with, whether those are members or those who want the leadership. And I think this is where wise decisions will have to be made. With regards to the leader and the issue of taking some leave, I think that too should be looked at from a direction of what then can be done to ensure not only those who are now given an opportunity to see inside of what leadership looks like, but to also take full advantage of how they can bring that contribution that doesn't further tear the party apart. So we remain loyal and committed as we demonstrated since 2015 in your photo. We show that loyalness and commitment even in 2020. And we continue to demonstrate that in our commitment to our communities and the issues that we choose to represent. But I would like to say to the party and its membership that we have a good opportunity because of what this government is doing to bring representation alternatively to the people of Guyana with regards to how they want to live a better and good life.
Well said. Former chairman of Region 10, Sharma Solomon, thanking him so much for his dedication, his hard work, and his commitment to the people of Region 10 and beyond. Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma Solomon. Let's get back to Ms. Vanessa Kissoon, part Plaisance, part Linden. We thank you for your contributions as well. Let us hope that you do get back your what is it, your membership, and you don't have to apologize or anything, because you seem to be, and you're a firebrand. You don't mince words. If you got to tell somebody something, you tell them like it is. But one of the things that I observe with you, though, I'll be honest with you, you don't hold malice. You may say something, you may abuse me out, so to speak, tonight, but when you wake up tomorrow morning, you look at me and you smile and you say, hey, Mark, we've got to move on. And that is what I like about you. There is a photograph that I recall that after the situation with you and Mr. Oscar Clark, who was then General Secretary of the People's National Congress Reform, after the little whatever falling out, here it is, you are, Congress Place, reaching out to him, saying, let bygones be bygones. But your hand was right there. Anyways, I'm glad that you guys have made up, even after you made this first move to say, look, let bygones be bygones. He looked at you, he stared at you, but I don't know. Your closing remarks, Miss Kissoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Before I close, as politicians, this is the forum. I almost forgot to that we have a parliament. And thank you for reminding me that a no confidence motion is still before to be placed, as the Speaker of the House is refusing to put these motions before the Parliament. So I believe that it is now time that the doctors, nurses, teachers, we're the ones supposed to be now calling for the resignation of these ministers. And we should down tools until we get answers. You understand? We have the power to effect the change that we want in this country. We the people. I want to say in closing, let me first say, greet and wish our Indigenous brothers and sisters a happy Indigenous Peoples Month, and to my colleagues, happy Education Month. I know that it's not really a happy one because, we cannot do all the things that we normally do. And based on what we're being faced with now, the whole atmosphere shift because we're here now standing up for our rights. Let me say, as according to Mahatma Gandhi, and I quote, a no uttered from the deepest conviction is better than a yes merely uttered to please, or worse, to avoid trouble. I want to say to us this evening that it's important that we stand up. And this is not just for Linden and Region 10. This is for the entire Guyana. Because what we're seeing, it's going to affect everyone. It's going to affect everyone across this country. Businesses will be affected. Place of worship will be affected. Schools are already being affected. The health sector is already being affected. And let me commend those workers. I think Mr. Solomon did that this afternoon, and myself, and others on the panel. Commend the Child Care Protection Agency. Those workers that demonstrated unity when their colleagues were locked out of their workplace, they joined them. And this is the type of action and this is the type of response we need across this country. Not when you turn up to work and you go in and you already sign in your time, the gate is open, and then a sister comes to tell you you have to leave the building because you're unvaccinated, and so you're going to go down as absent when you already signed in your time. What is happening in this place? Why are we sitting down and allowing these persons to treat us this way? We need to stand up. I want to encourage my mothers. I know that lots of times as us women, we carry the fight. We are the ones that carry the fight. And then we see our men, they come and they stand with us because they won't want anyone to harm us. So we have to decide as women, we have to get out there. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible for our children. Y'all say all sorts of things about us when we can't take care of our children. And now our children are being denied an education. Come on, man. What are we doing? Let us stand together. United we stand, divided we fall. Now that I'm not saying our fathers are not out there too, because I know their fathers. And Mark, let me bring this to your attention quickly. The situation that happened at President's College that actually started this whole thing about with secondary schools. Parents, imagine, and this is something we have to be very careful of as teachers. We should not allow the minister or the ministry or even give them the assurance that we as teachers will coerce parents into consenting for their children to accept or to take that vaccine. It is unacceptable when you have an administrator telling parents, if you don't consent, you will have to transfer your children. This was being said to parents at a PTA Zoom meeting for the President's College. And this is final. If you don't consent, your child will have to, you will have to find another school. Madness. And so parents who are told to bring in their children, you fill out the consent form, whether you consented or not online. And then you were given the impression that, okay, your child doesn't have to take the vaccine. They will come in, do the test, and then they will be in there for the entire term. So parents went out and shopped for 5,000 over because they're living for the entire term. Only the night before the 11th hour to be told that subsequently your child will be vaccinated. And I have done research and all. Listen, we cannot be doing that. We should not do that. Let parents make the informed decision, because what will happen if anything happens to that child, the parent will blame that teacher. Colleagues, I'm asking us to stay away from such. Let us not do that. We cannot stand responsibility for those children. The parent has the decision to make whether they will consent or not consent. And we, as parents, whether we consent or we don't consent, we respect each other's decision. Even with teachers, we respect each other's decision. If a teacher consents or don't consent. And if you lock out the teacher that doesn't consent, then we all will stand outside. And as we said on Friday, forced vaccination, no education. You cannot do that to our children, and you cannot deny our children their right to an education. It is wrong. This is total wrong. This is madness. All right. So in closing, Mark, I sound like a politician. Then I probably will say, just before I go, I want to say to us, and I if you notice, I've been doing a lot of quotes tonight, and this one is from the late Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. I want to say to us, if we remain silent on this issue, our lives begin. This is the beginning and the ending of our lives. We need to stand up. We need to ensure that we let these people know that we mean business. You're not going to force on us, and you're not going to deny us our right to choose and the right for our children to have an education. We just will not stand by and allow you to treat us like we are. I don't know what you want to say, but we are illiterate. Parents are not illiterate. Teachers are not illiterate. Mark Benschop and all the other hosts of these different shows, they're not illiterate.
No. They get some illiterate ones, but I'm not going to be.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not going to criticize anybody tonight.
Mark, I want to say to you, thank you very much for having me. I want to thank the listening audience also, and your viewing audience. I want to say to my Lindeners, my Region 10ers, whether it's from Sub-Region 2, Rockstone, wherever we are. Tomorrow we stand in unity. United we stand, divided we fall. And I believe that the people of Linden and Region 10, we know what it is to stand together. We know what it is to stand in unity. So I urge us all, and I'm calling especially on my mothers, let us stand up for our children. We will be the ones that have to answer for them. And we're the ones that have to decide what's best at this time for our children who are 17 and under. They're not 18 as yet. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, former Member of Parliament, Ms. Vanessa Kissoon. She's also a suspended member of the People's National Congress Reform. We're hoping that that comes to an end very soon. Mr. Sharma Solomon, thank you so much for your time as well, former chairman of Region Number 10. Tomorrow is a big day in Linden, a shutdown day in Linden. I am hearing, and I'm almost certain, that there are other parts of Guyana will shut down as well. It's for a good cause. Don't put your kids at risk. Teachers, don't put your own lives at risk as well. And we know what's going to come out of Priya Manik-Chan's mouth tomorrow. She will call a press conference, and she will want to blame the teachers and all the nonsense coming out of her mouth as usual. But again, thank you both. God bless you all. And I will be monitoring the situation tomorrow in Linden. I say kudos to the organizers, kudos to the community activists out there in Linden, kudos to the residents of Linden as well, Ituni, Kokwani, and other places. I salute you guys. Thank you all so much.
Thanks for having me, Mark. God bless you.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Miss Vanessa Kissoon there for you guys, Mr. Sharma Solomon, and I know some folks are some PPP folks. Some PPP folks are definitely against what we have said, but that's okay. We are speaking for their rights also. All Guyanese. This is not a Linden thing, an Ituni thing, a Kukwani thing, or a coalition thing. This is a Guyanese thing all across the country. But one thing for sure, you're not hearing the regime saying that the cane cutters, wherever they are, before they cut cane, before they raise a cutlass for one chop, they got to prove that they have taken the vaccine. We're not hearing that at all. We're not hearing, or neither are we seeing, that the gates of Port Morant Hospital shut. Nurses and doctors can't go in. We're not hearing that. We're not hearing that about Mybe Curie. We're not hearing that about Skellen Hospital and so forth. But we're only hearing these things in Linden and maybe Georgetown and so forth. And people are beginning to question. People are beginning to ask why. And if those things are not being done across the board, well, then the people in Region 10, the people in Linden have every right to do what they're doing tomorrow. And I ask of you, tomorrow, bright and early, get on your page and say, I am in support of Region 10 or Linden. I am in support of Region 10 or Linden. Let's show that support for them. And even if you're not from there, even Region 6, Region 7, Region 8, Region 9, Region 4, make tomorrow a very quiet day in Guyana. We're mourning. We're mourning the death of democracy. We're mourning the death of over 600 persons who have died as a result of the coronavirus. That number is way larger. There are other people who have been misdiagnosed. They've died. The regime doesn't care. When the coalition got out of office by force, there was 23 or 24 deaths. At that time, the PPP, Priya Manik-Chan and their gang, they didn't give a damn about the coronavirus. They pretended as though it never existed. They were forcing their supporters to go to wherever they were going. Forget about the lockdown. Forget about the curfew. Even the private sector. All of them, they were against it. They are the reason why Guyana is where it is today with the coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. The PPP is to be blamed. They have ignored it. But you know what? Thank God for the APNU-AFC coalition government. When it comes to the pandemic, it was handled well by the task force. It was handled well by the then Minister of Health and her team, Valda Lawrence, who is now the acting leader of the People's National Congress Reform until the return of His Excellency David Arthur Granger. And now, gosh, I think Sharma Solomon said it all in terms of unity, peace within the party. I'm not a member of the party. I haven't been suspended or anything. I'm just a friend of the party. I want to see good, not good because of the party, good because of their support base, going out there and effectively dealing with issues in the communities instead of wasting your energy and fighting each other and backbiting and all of these things. And I don't know, maybe that will help the members of parliament, most of them who are sleeping, to wake up and to get out there and do some work. I don't know. If Mr. Granger is watching, maybe one of my suggestions, because he is leader of the list still, is that some of those members of parliament who are sleeping, do not allow them to spend that full period in there as parliamentarians. Weed the ones out who are not sleeping. I mean, who are sleeping, weed them out, bring in some fresh faces. Maybe sometime next year that should become a reality. But for now, here's what I want to do, other than thanking you guys for tonight's program. This guy, he is currently in a jail cell in Russia, somewhere out there in Moscow. His name is Sean Pike, originally from Guyana. He has attended university in Russia. He has been living full-time in Russia since 2010 with his wife and his beautiful kids. His wife is Russian. He speaks fluent Russian. So privet, как дела, to all you Russians out there, including my good friend. I kind of grew up with Sean Pike. Well, when I say grew up, he visited the quarantine a lot of times when we were little kids, his relatives at Philippi Village, the Pistanos and so forth. And we had lots of fun, pitching marbles, climbing trees and so forth. Guess why he's locked up? He is locked up because he is a member of the Jehovah's Witness. And you know Jehovah's Witnesses are being persecuted in Russia. They're being persecuted. And tonight, my friend is in a filthy cell, overcrowded cell. Some of his colleagues with Jehovah's Witnesses have been locked up as well. But he's the only black person. And so they have they have placed him with the other population there, prison population. And they have isolated his other colleagues to keep them safe. But because this guy is who he is, a black guy, he hasn't murdered anybody. He ain't fraud nobody. He ain't commit fraud. He ain't commit no sort of criminal act or nothing. All he was doing, all he has been locked up for and being persecuted is because he's a Jehovah's Witness. Let us pray for Sean Pike. But let me say this here. Not a word from the PPP regime, not a word from the Minister of Foreign Affairs on this matter, at least not publicly. We haven't heard anything. They are not concerned about this guy being in a filthy cell in Moscow. They're more concerned about catfish and gilbaca not getting the market in America. That is what they're concerned. They're putting that ahead of this guy's freedom and the fact that he is being persecuted. Shame on the regime. And whoever is the shadow foreign affairs to the coalition, I hope they can follow up on this case. Looks as though everybody just, I don't know what the heck is happening. But let us pray for this young man, my friend, Sean Pike, to be released pretty soon. He has to return to court sometime in October, late October. For what? Because he's a Jehovah's Witness. That is all. I don't know. Look what's happening here now. Police seeking this PPP supporter. Jinga over shooting of GRA officers. Every single time. He has probably allegedly shot GRA officers about 10, 15 times. And every single time, nothing happens to the case. Absolutely nothing happens to the case. Only in Guyana and only when the PPP is in office, these sort of corrupt things happen. I don't know. Shame on the PPP. And for those of you who have lost loved ones, let me, my good friend Coley Allen and his wife Claudette Allen. Claudette has lost her mother, Isella. Condolences to the family out in New Amsterdam. And for those of you who are celebrating your birth anniversary, happy birthday to every single one of you. But pray for Guyana. Tomorrow is a day when the entire country should be shut down. Don't go in and buy in their stores. Those private sector people, don't support them, mind you. Just don't go and buy anything tomorrow. Not even 2 pieces of fried chicken. Don't do that at all. Here it is. Mr. Granger, Sharma Solomon, and Vanessa Kissoon. 2015. They were okay then. They were happy then. Why now? I don't know. I don't know who is asking or who is trying to prevent them from getting their party membership cards again. I don't know who is attempting to do that. But at least by the end of this week, these folks should get their party card. They should receive their party cards. And let me say congratulations to this young man, Mr. Roysdale Ford. He is the acting, he's performing the duties of the leader of the opposition. Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, congratulations to you. He's also the Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs. Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs. Kind of like a quiet guy, but sometimes you know what they say about quiet snakes, right? Easy snakes. I'm not saying he's a snake at all, but he's a good guy. And I'm glad that he's performing the duties of the leader of the opposition. Thank you so much for what you're doing, Roysdale Ford. And for now, thank you all for tuning in. I'm sorry that I've interrupted your good Sunday evening, but this is important enough so that you can join in that struggle. Urge your family members back in Guyana to join in that struggle tomorrow and shut the Region 10 down and other regions. Shut it down. Until tomorrow evening, same place, same time. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless you. So long.
It's hard to be at peace with the ones who are so discard. It's hard. Them have a knife in your back and them smile it so broad. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. Got the booby traps with them set is real. I never want to take your glory, Lord. Send your angels to encamp around about me and stand guard. To envy is so easy and to love it is so hard. Let me work for your glory and not for the award. Don't make me ever get caught up in the scream and the applause and go talk about the blessing and not talk about the Lord. All these things are vanity. I need your reward. Let me be real. Don't put on no facade. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. Got the booby traps with them set is real. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. They can harm me. When the evil come against me, you'll protect me. You'll protect me. Father, I need the strength of your son. Cause you know my work is not done. Lord, I need that endurance just to finish this race that I run. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. And help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. Got the booby traps with them set is real. You tell me to stand firm, cause every little plan you have a confirm. I know them evil plan turn. In a darkness me a the lantern. So help me to deal with the ones that who said them love me when them really don't. Jesus, help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. Got the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them